Good evening, everybody. This is Sharmila here, back again after a gap of about 2 months with a Saturday Live. And this time I have young unschooling girls with me on the show. So today we have Seher, Aliza, Naseem Beg, and we have Kashvi. Um, so I'm all excited to talk and interact with them. I'm a bit nervous too because all four girls are powerhouse girls. They have so much to share, and I'm sure they're going to bowl me out in with what they have to say. So, without wasting any time, let's hear more about them themselves. And so, my first question, let me point it out to the oldest, Seher. So, Seher, could you share a little about yourself? Um, what do you do, and so on? Anything that comes to your mind right now.
I just turned 19 in April, and right now I'm working along with a bookstore in Delhi, and I make videos with them twice a month about new children's books that are coming into the store. And I really enjoy doing that. I've always loved talking about books. I've always been very passionate about them, so I'm enjoying doing this. I love to do art. I paint. I like to embroider, mess around with clay. So that's also another one of my passions. And I stopped going to school in after class 9 and in 2018, early 2018, and I've been unschooling since then.
Wow. And do you still do your crochet? I remember the.
Oh, I don't do crochet. That's Ali and Naseem. Ali does a lot of
Oh, okay,
crochet.
okay.
Yeah.
Ali does a lot of crochet. Okay, I
And
think
so does Kashvi.
so does
Yeah, so
Kashmir.
does
Yes,
Kashvi. Yeah, Kashvi
I
made the hairband
have.
on Ali's head.
Yes, I have a couple of things that Kashmir's made for me. There's a band and there's a pouch where I keep my earphones. I still have them.
Actually,
So
Kashvi made this as well.
wow, that's pretty. That's pretty. Even what Naseem's wearing, is that what Kashmir made, or did you make it?
I made that, and it's knitting.
It's knitting. Okay. Wow. Okay. So, Aliza, why don't you share something about yourself?
So I'm 17 years old. I also left school in 2018 after grade 7. I'm not. Uh, so we have been unschooling since then, but I last year I started studying with a structure and a curriculum fully. I started studying for my 10th board exams with IGCSE, and I recently gave some exams for that as well in February. I gave exams for two of my subjects, English and maths, and I'll give the rest of them in October. So I've been enjoying my studies. Other than that, I also crochet, like we just discussed. I crochet and I play music. I love music. I play the piano and the ukulele.
Wow. We, we must hear you play something towards the end of today's show. Um, okay, over to you. I think should I go to Kashmi first and then Naseem? So, Kashmi, why don't you introduce yourself?
Uh, I am 15 currently, uh, and I like doing some stuff. I also crochet, something I've said already, and I also paint and draw. I also play the ukulele, but haven't done that in so long, so like sort of know some stuff. Um, there is. I also do embroidery from time to time. I like having conversations, facilitating small events, hosting people, talking to people. Just I don't know, gappe marna. That's another thing I like to do. I also make jewelry from time to time, and I guess traveling is something that I enjoy. I haven't started traveling alone yet, but it's something I enjoy. And yeah, cooking and baking from time to time. That's also something. And yeah, I like hanging around with these guys. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I still remember the ragi cupcakes you had made for one of the families learning together, and you had kept them on sale, and we were like, "यार ये बेच क्यों रही है?" But then we all bought the cupcakes, and they were amazing. And yes, so there's so much more about Kashvi that I've interacted more with her because we were regulars at the families learning together for a few years, I think past 3 or 4 years. So, and she and her sisters. So, Kashvi is also the oldest of three sisters. She has got two younger sisters. All of them live in Udaipur. Right now, she is with at Seher Aliza Naseem's village. She's come with them to their village, which is in UP, right? Yeah, yeah. And now over to Naseem. Naseem, the youngest of the lot. Can you share a little about yourself?
Um, I am 13. I like to read, um, and I recently got back into knitting after learning in my Waldorf school that I went to till in the middle of fifth grade, and then I broke my arm, and then just didn't go back.
Okay. Thank you, Naseem. So, I have this burning question. I just actually reread the post that Natasha, your mom, had written when you guys started your homeschooling journey. And I think in her post, in the sense, the blog post. So, I think it was Aliza who first raised her voice, right? That she wasn't happy with school and she wanted to be out. So, Elisa, can you tell us what was it at that point of time? What were your experiences like, and what pushed you to, telling your parents that you didn't want to go to school anymore?
Um, well, so I never actually said, I never told my parents I don't want to go to school anymore. It was actually them that um, gave me the choice that, okay, you're having such a hard time. Why don't we leave school? So in seventh grade, the whole year of seventh grade, I was just having a very, very hard time dealing with school. I was still enjoying my studies, and I've always been very into academics and really enjoy like the hard learning of school. But I wasn't being able to deal with the environment of school, where there's like 30 children in a room, and there's one teacher trying to control all of them, and like everyone's going through their own problems, and just the social part of school, the messiness of that. And I had throughout my school years, I'd had this problem, and often I would like not go to school for a month, or not go to school for a few weeks, or just like take some time off. But then in seventh grade, I didn't feel better about it. It was bad, and it didn't get better. And so then my parents started to look into alternatives, and we came to LSUC 2017 in Bangalore, and that was when they found where they met other unschooling parents and homeschooling parents, and so then our parents were like, well, this is if there's this option here, then why would we continue to send you to a place where you're having such a hard time? And so they gave the option to Seher and me and Naseem as well. They said to all three of us that, okay, if you don't want to go to school anymore, let's leave then. It's completely free now. We can like there's no point continuing if you hate it so much. But in the beginning, I was actually hesitant to leave school. Seher was completely up for it. She was like, yes, absolutely, goodbye school. But I was really conflicted about it, because even though I was having such a bad time, I really enjoyed the studies, and I really enjoyed like my exams and things like that, and I didn't want to like miss out on my sculpture class with this teacher that I really liked, and so I like, didn't want to do that for a while. And then, like in a few months later, I think after we went to families learning together, um, where like met I met Kashvi there for the first time, and I met other children. I really interacted with the other kids for the first time. Where I was like, okay, if they're doing it, then there's other people my age who have left school after going to school for a while, and then I met some people who are still studying, and it's like okay. And that was when I also decided to leave school in
Uh,
March.
in March 2018. And how was it for you, Seher? Because the two of you were totally into it as soon as your parents asked you. So, how was it? Did you have thoughts around, oh, what would happen if I'm just at home and so on?
Yeah, I really enjoy being at home. I loved like the summer holidays, and I would always, if there was ever like an excuse to not go to school, I would always jump on it. I never like if there was ever an option to not go to school, I would take it. I didn't want to go to school, and I never fully like sat down and examined that of or like kind of like sat back for a while. It was just kind of like, oh, this is just the way that it is. Until Ali started having such a hard time, and then it was kind of obvious that like no, this isn't working, and we need something else. And my last year of school, I I was in class 9 and I just kind of gave up a little bit. I stopped paying attention in class. I didn't take any notes. All my notebooks from that class are empty. And like before that, I would love taking notes, and I would like they would be like color coded and they would have little doodles in the corners. And I loved being kind of creative with them. But in the last year of school, I stopped. There was no part of it that I enjoyed. There were no friends that I felt like I deeply connected like that I was so deeply connected with that I would like miss them that much if I left. And I would flunk class all the time. I would just tell my teacher I'm not feeling well and go sleep in the infirmary. I didn't do my homework. I failed my final maths exam and I had to retake it. And so and but I but I was also like dealing with it, and I don't know if I would have stopped and thought about what was bothering me if Aliza hadn't had the reaction that she had in her last year of school. But when the option was given to us, there was something in me that instantly went that like, yes, I want to leave. I don't want to be in this environment. And there was no part of me that was worried about being home all day. I, I, there's all the things that I love to do are at home. I was like, oh, I'll read all the books I want to read. I'll paint all I want. I'll watch all the films I want. And just this kind of like belief, very strong beliefs that like we'll be able to figure something out as a family. You're still muted.
This is what happens. I always forget to unmute myself. Okay. So So the two of you started on the journey, but Naseem continued with her Waldorf school. She was younger, and how did it feel, Naseem? You were, your sisters were at home, but you had to wake up and go to school. Were you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was also given the option when we found out about unschooling that if you want to, you can leave. But I never. I mean, it was a Waldorf school, so it was um, kind of an alternative already, and it wasn't. And I wanted to go, and I would always, whenever we were like traveling or something, I would always remind our parents that, oh, I have school. Can we shift this to a weekend? I don't want to miss school. But but then after like a year or so, then like the school also changed, and they stopped being um, they s- I mean, I just stopped enjoying it, and were they had weird rules. And and then after that, I like a year later, I also decided to leave.
Okay. So, so you soon followed your sisters. Must
Yeah.
have been a riot at home, no? Three girls at home, lots of musty, and so I'm also, I have two sisters, so I'm also part of the three sister family, and so I know how it can be. You know, the minute my mom would be out, the three of us would be experimenting, cooking, and then there was a time when we had put something in the pressure cooker and completely forgotten about it, and then we started getting this burnt smell. So we used to have lots of fun, the three sisters, and I. So I
We
can,
did something very similar.
okay,
We set a fire almost. We
okay,
yeah
Almost, we did set a fire. There was a
yeah
fire.
yeah.
and then
Well, so Seher
I
was
was
upstairs in her
upstairs
room,
with the.
and Naseem and I were downstairs, and we decided to melt some chocolate, but we didn't realize that chocolate burns if you just put it straight on the stove. So
okay,
we just like put it. I put it on the stove, and then I think I went to the bathroom or something, and then Naseem was yeah, I was in the bathroom, and then Naseem was there, and then obviously the chocolate burnt on the stove. You double boil it, or you put it in the oven or something, but you don't put it directly on the stove. So it like the um, button that it was in basically lit on fire, and so like there was a tall fire all the way up to the ceiling, and
wow.
Naseem was reading a book, and then she like smelled smoke, and then she was like, oh my god, there's a fire in the kitchen. And she didn't know where Seher was, she didn't know where I was, we were both hidden somewhere behind the door. And she was like, oh, Aliza, there's a fire in the kitchen. And I like came running out and yeah, to do some damage control. Both the parents weren't at home. But luckily, no one got hurt and nothing got broken. It was just one button got ruined. That was all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not even ruined. It was a metal thing, so it's just a little blackened, but it's fully functional still.
Oh yes, so many utensils we have messed up with, leaving the milk to boil, leaving things on the stove and going off. And cooking used to be something, every time my mom used to be out, we would be in the kitchen trying out something or the other, putting things together, and it would always be a mess. But we were all partners in crime during our childhood. So, yeah, we will hear a lot more such stories from the three of you. Now, I'd like to go over to Kashvi. Hey, Kashvi, you were in grade three, right, when you quit schooling. So, how was it for you?
Um, I mean, I wasn't really a big fan of school ever. I mean, I just had like one friend, and I was sort of known in class to skip school the most, like in first grade, second grade, and third grade. Like, I'd not go to school basically, even if I was in school. And I mean, to be honest, I wasn't even that smart that I like catch things and have fun studying and stuff. I was I don't really know what I was into at those times. Um, but I finished third grade, and just the next day I was gonna go to fourth, and I like came with my books to cover them. There was some plastic thing that you cover them with. To my mom, and my mom and dad were talking about homeschooling, and so my dad was opening or planning to open a school, and in that research he found out the concept. So he was talking about it with mama, and mama said that like keep that on hold for like a bit, we'll like talk about this. And then I like really remember my mom's face just like lighting up to that. I'm like, wow, that's great sort of thing. So I think I went out with my sisters, and we like came back after an hour or so, and my mom just asked me if it'd be okay or if I want to not go to school. And me and my sister, we were literally jumping on the bed. We were so happy, like thank God, get us out of this everything. So yeah, that's how like the thing started. I mean, we were also very unsure because we didn't know anyone who we knew that was doing the same thing. And I think my parents also thought that there'll be like what 5 6 people in India who are doing such things. So after like 2 months after we decided to homeschool, we found out about Swaj, Shantar, and these places, and then like exploring that and meeting new people, knowing that there are so many other people who are unschooling and homeschooling. And it started as homeschooling, slowly shifted to unschooling because we didn't study, obviously. So, yeah, I think I was pretty happy about it. I didn't like even have to give it a second thought that like if I had the choice to leave school, I'd just leave it. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
really fit into the whole class or anything. Um, yeah, I was like for the year or maybe a little more, I didn't do much than just watching movies on the computer. I don't remember doing anything much. I might like paint or something at times, or we would go to places, but except that, I don't remember doing much. Um, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wow. So interesting. So which year was this, Kashvi? When was this? Uh,
It was 6 years ago. I don't know which year was that.
Okay. So probably around 2016.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So we all soon followed, because I think we also started our journey in 2017, 18. So October 2017, my oldest came for the unschoolers camp at Udaipur. He used to go to a learning center then, and just after that he didn't go back to school at all. He just went for their December field trip, which is something that all children look forward to. It's a 2-day camp, so he went for that, and then he said, I don't want to go anymore. And LSUC was a huge turning point for us too. Though I guess since we didn't know each other, we didn't meet during at LSUC, and I was mainly spending a lot of time with my daughter, who was just 2 years old at that point of time, so two and a half. And then I think we all met during families learning together. I have fond memories of the first families learning together that I attended. It was so much fun. So yeah, so moving on, what were some of the fears that y'all have always had around, not going to school, and or were there any fears? Is what I would like to know.
Yeah, I guess there were. I mean, I was always worried about not having friends. I guess, or
Mm-hmm.
like there's a safety and a comfort of just like having a group of people that you hang or that you spend the day with, and there's also a like there's also safety and stability that comes with the structure of it. Of
Mm-hmm.
like you do this, you do this, you do this. You kind of know what your day will look like, what your week, your month, your basically your entire year will look like. Um, and what I didn't like that wasn't a fear that I had in the beginning. That was something that set in later. In the beginning, there was just like relief for a year and a half, and it was just like, oh my god, I'm not like there anymore. And pretty soon after I left school, a couple of months after I went to camp in 2018 mainly, and I, met lots of other kids, and we became good friends. I met Kashvi there again, and so that was also very nice. But that's like something more like a more recent thing that's come in as my all the people that I knew in school as they graduated and went to college. That's like a fear that's set in now that I kind of try to acknowledge and deal with a little bit day by day. Just to kind of keep to also like look back on the years where I feel like I've done nothing and to remind myself of the things that I have done, because it can feel like I've done nothing, but then when I look at back and it's like, no, I did this, I did this, I did this podcast episode, I did this research, I wrote that article. So if So kind of reminding myself of things like that. Of like, no, I haven't just been wasting my time. I've been doing things. But yeah, that's fear of being
Yeah.
responsible for your
Hmm.
own self and everything that you do.
Wow. Yeah. In fact, more than my children, I had a lot of fear around their future. And then I read this article by the founder of Sudbury Valley, a US based free range school. And he said that by the time children are around 14, 15, 16, they themselves start thinking about their future, and they, because they are so aligned with themselves, they know what they want to do, and they find their path. And that kind of reduced my fears a lot. And I actually we saw that with my son Aditya, who at the age of 16 decided that he wanted to give his board exams. And we found the way. He's already given them in February. And now my second son also has started thinking about his future and what he wants to do. He comes and asks questions like, I don't know what I want to do, but I only know that I'm going to earn a lot of money. So I said, okay, that's a good start. You're at least clear about that. So yeah, so when you shared about your fear about future and whether you have been doing something constructive or wasting your time, I could literally see, I've seen these thoughts, amidst my children too. So what about the others? Aliza, Naseem, Kashvi, did you girls have any fears around homeschooling or being living a life out of school?
I don't think I suddenly had them. Like later on, after some time, I think the friend thing was such a big deal. I mean, that would be the most question that I would get. Like, how do you make friends if you're not in school?
Hmm.
I think I was like going to places, going to gatherings that helped with that, like making friends. And I guess for the longest time, I had older friends who would be like in
Hmm.
their 20s or like would be 19 when I was 11 or 12. But like slowly getting closer to my age people also. But I didn't think that was there. The thing, I think a bit of it was being judged by some people around me. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I don't think they would judge me that I don't go to school. I was fine with that, but they'll judge me that if I don't know stuff that they would know or that my age people just know.
Hmm.
Um, Except that my future, I also felt that I'm capable enough to do something meaningful, that I'll be happy with what I'll be doing, and
Hmm.
that I had enough time to figure that out. Like I still have enough time to figure what I want to do in life. So I'm not that stressed about it. There are times, of course, when I get a little anxious about what I'm going to do, but like it's still fine because I know how there are like people around me supporting me and I'll be just fine. So leaving school, I don't think there were so many fears. It was just I think I was that small to even have any fears. I'm like, oh, freedom. So there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You made such a powerful statement, Kashvi, that fear of being judged by people for not knowing what they feel you should know. I think that's a huge statement that we have you have made. And in fact, on our Homeschooling India group, most of the queries that parents put up are based on fears of being judged, fears of not reaching to the expectations of others, that ओ बच्चे क्या कर रहे हैं, घर पे बैठते हैं, घर पे पूरा दिन बैठते हैं, how do they do, फिर आप पढ़ाई लेते हो. So these are the kind of questions that even we have faced. I'm sure all of us have faced these questions. And then in fact, I remember when I used to ask similar questions, because when I came to the unschoolers camp to pick up Aditya, I asked Haripriya and Shamli and another girl who were part of the camp. I said, "So what do you all do throughout the day?" And they looked at me and said, "हम लोग तो maths करते हैं." I was like, "Really?" I thought that nobody would answer say maths of all things. And I was like, "Okay, wow, homeschoolers love maths. This is news to me." So, but at that later on, I realized that they were just shutting me up by saying whatever came to their mind. Ki, stop asking us these stupid questions when you don't know what homeschooling is. So, so yeah, fears around being judged are so high, and I think another fear that both Seher and you have voiced is friends. You know, so, would Naseem and Ariza want to share more about friends or any other fears that they have faced in their uh, homeschooling journey?
Yeah, so I never had any fears about not having friends. I like to keep to myself. I'm very introverted, so even though I wasn't meeting people, and I had like casual like acquaintances that I would call friends, but I would meet them like very few times a year, and I was okay with that. I didn't have any fears about that. I also, um, I mean, I understand that fear of being judged because in school I sort of had made my thing about like liking academics and being good at academics like a huge part of my identity. And so since I didn't have that anymore, and I wasn't formally studying anything anymore, I felt like something that used to be such a big part of me is gone now. And like people that I would connect with earlier over liking studying, I would no longer connect with them. And then there were some old school friends who would say weird things like, "Oh, so you're like a middle school dropout? You're like wasting your life now." And like that judgment I felt, but I didn't feel it for very long. It was a very short time, and then I just got over it. I was like, I know that
Mm,
I'm very smart. I know I'm smart, and that's all that matters. I don't have to prove it to you by doing an exam or whatever, scoring heights on an exam. I don't have to prove that to you. I know that I'm smart. I'm doing things with my life,
mm,
and I know that I'll figure things out. Like I'm not wasting my life, even if I don't. Um, do my A levels or go to college, I know that I'll figure something out. So I I can't think of any fears right now that I have right now. Like I used to have these fears, but I've gotten over them.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, my
Another
fear
power.
is also like I don't feel like they restrict me. They're more like anxieties that come and go, or like things
Hmm,
that I can talk down. Where I'm like,
hmm,
I know that this is like an anxious thought that I have, but I also know that like it doesn't have a lot of it doesn't hold up if I put it up to like to real life and things like that. Um, and my big thing with friends was also like I never. It was always more about other people, other people's perception of me rather than not being
hmm,
content with the people that I knew.
hmm.
And, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Naseem, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, I never had any fears, but I, but like it's just like something I'm missing, but it's not really like I'm afraid of it. It the friends thing, like I am not very. I don't really know how to make friends. Like to, I'm not comfortable starting conversations and talking to people
Mm-hmm.
who I've never talked to before. And I mean that is how you meet people.
Right.
So and in school it's like okay, you come to the same place every day with these same people, and so you just like get to know them automatically, and you're just stuck in a place with them for a long time. But like, so apart from that, I didn't really know how to make friends, and I still like mostly the people who I'm friendly with, or like I would call a friend, would be these people's friends who
Mm-hmm.
just like, who I know or stuff.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
I still don't really have friends, but it's not like a fear
Hmm.
that
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it is, the popular notion is that it's a given that children have to have friends. The notion that a child can be completely comfortable in their own company is is not accepted by people all around us. So yes. So when I say at times that what do your children do, if I'm asked what do your children do, and I'm saying that no, at times they're doing nothing. They're at home. Don't they like to play with others? Don't they want to meet friends and play and go out? And I'm like, no, they are comfortable at home, and I'm also comfortable with them being at home. It took me some time to be comfortable with them and being at home, but yes. So yeah, I guess slowly these notions need to change. That you don't always need people around you, and somebody can be comfortable just being with themselves too. So, okay, so I'm going to take a couple of questions that have come up. I think they go in well here. So, do your friends envy you and your freedom? Your freedom. So, who would like to share?
Most of my friends are also unschoolers, so they also have the same kind of freedom that I do. Um, and so I guess not really. And when I was talking to my school friends, I lost contact with them very quickly, um, because neither party did a very good job of making an effort to keep in touch. But my friends from school that didn't have the kind of freedom weren't envious as much as they were confused by the choice. Like they didn't understand um, the whole unschooling, and they just kind of thought that I was making like some horrible mistake. So there was never any envy, just some judgment and concern.
Okay. Anyone else wants to add to this?
Hmm. I don't think my friends envy me either. I can only think of one person who goes to school who is my friend, and she's all right with it. She likes school. Um, I think sometimes they might they might wish that they had as much time on their hands, as much free time. I mean, on their hands, but I don't think so. They don't envy my freedom right now.
Does Naseem or Kashvi want to add to this? What do you guys think?
Um,
I don't have friends.
I do have one friend. I used to go to dance classes, and I'm still in touch with her. At times, I do talk to her, and I feel very like nice. She's like, "Oh my god, your life! It's so nice. You're living my dream life." And it's not exactly that, but at times I do feel like, yeah, she wishes that she also had time and freedom as much as I do it. And but it's not, yeah, I don't think I have other friends, any other friends who go to school right now, at least.
Yeah.
Um, the one person who I would like count as a friend, who is my cousin, she goes to school, but like she doesn't. It's all she gets. She's more creative than I am. Like she makes more things and she does more things than usually I do. So I don't. I don't think it's much to do with freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess every child is different, and in our unschooling journey also, I've seen that it's the children usually do not compare or do not look at who is better than whom. They might do it at times, but there's no envy. I don't see that emotion of envy in it. I just see just a wish, he wish I had some more time, wish my mom allowed me to play all day and all that. It's mainly what I have experienced is it's mainly the parents who envy, who bring that envy into their thoughts and so on. Oh, and it's their analysis or their inferences that they are drawing out. So, and I guess once you stop comparing and just let children be, all these thoughts just move out of your this. And I've seen that that also helps in making and strengthening friendships and relationships, because I have a 7-year-old daughter too who is completely out playing throughout the day. I I mean, if I would have got into this mess of thinking about where whether her friends envy her, whether they are this or that, how messy the life would be for my daughter. Not for anybody else, but for my daughter, it would be quite messy if I had such thoughts in my mind, or I compared her with other children or anything. Every child is unique, every child has their own experiences, and they try to make the most of wherever they are, So I guess uh, even my experience is that we do not, it's best not to compare, and it's best uh, not to look at whether your friends, these are all fleeting emotions also, they come and go. Sometimes, yes, for a second you feel, but then next moment you're over and you have moved on from that emotion too. So yeah. So there's another there's another question, probably only we could all answer, or I could answer. It's so Sheila finds you girls to be very confident and articulate. Yes, they are, and she's also considering this for her own child. She wants to know details of the groups and events we have been mentioning. So, Sheila, after the live session, I will share links to these events and some um, write ups on both these events, LSUC and Families Learning Together. So, I'll do that. Then, okay, there's another question. Uh, how do you know what you don't know? School offers a range of subjects about things you might not stumble upon by yourself. Do you worry about missing out just by not being aware what's out there? Wow. Who'd like to take it?
Me. Uh, um, I I think if I like need to know something about something, I just go on the internet and find out. And like there is some idea. So my cousin also goes to school. So at times I will listen to her talk about what's there in school, what subjects there are, and what things they're learning, what stuff. So I think if I need to know something, or I'm curious about some stuff, I can just ask people, go to people, go on the internet and just learn about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like we were all in the structure long enough that we know what subjects school offers and what kind of. And I also feel like like it's. I don't think it's like it's not like school like it's hidden what their curriculum is. I feel like it's pretty general knowledge of all the subjects that school offers and all the subjects that like even are offered in college and things like that, and they're very easily like researched subjects. And I found that actually after leaving school I was more passionate. I had no love left for learning by the time I left, but I found that subjects that I was passionate about that school maybe wasn't offering, such as like I did like a course for a few weeks on ethnomusicology and I really enjoyed it. I discovered a course on gender studies and I really like enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have necessarily found the subjects in school. And yeah, um,
Mm.
also I feel like we all have enough of like connections with the outside world that we know what's out there and we know what we want from what's out there. There's more like there's a lot of um, freedom in like in the ability to choose and not have to do everything at once. Where in school you have to study every subject at once, you can kind of take things at your own pace, is which was wonderful for me to not have to be able to focus on one thing at a time.
Yes, so I also have discovered so many subjects that I had no clue about in school after leaving school. So, one thing that I'm really interested in is fashion history, and I found out about this through just YouTube. I found the video of this woman talking about the history of European fashion and like corsets and silhouettes and like how fashion changed from era to era, and I found that really really interesting. And I don't think I would have found such that kind of area through school. And other than that, I'm very very curious. So I often go online and like open websites of universities, and then I look at what subjects they've got. So, and then I look at like, okay, yeah, that sounds really interesting, archaeology and architecture and things like that. And then I click there and I'll go into what resources are on university websites. So I use that as a resource. Also, Seher and Naseem and I, last year we started this history class with a friend of our mother's. So she also gives us a lot of resources and a lot of different subjects to, uh, not just subjects like things to think about. So we like are close with people who keep offering us these opportunities to learn more things and to learn and to discover new areas that might be of interest to us. And because we are curious ourselves, we go out and find them also ourselves. So I don't really worry about missing out because I know that there's a lot out there and I can find it without school.
Lovely. Yes. Naseem, would you want to share your perspective to this? Okay. So yes. So I have been a teacher earlier, and I mainly taught primary school. And I don't think, you know, being a teacher also, I don't think children really miss out on anything that the school has to offer, especially in the primary section. And because children are usually guided by their curiosity. I have a 7-year-old who's so curious about things around her and wants to make sense of everything around her. I think put if I she did try school for a month, but putting everything into brackets and periods of half an hour and not giving her the opportunity to explore certain things much deeper and for a longer time, and cutting off, okay, maths period is done, half an hour, next you shift on to the next period and then to the next period. So I think that kind of was killing her love for learning and her joy in understanding new things. So she, and I've also seen in my career of 8 years of teaching that children numb themselves down, and they become numb to what things are happening in class. There will be some who comply and they do well and they are teachers' pets, but most of them, go into their dream world while the class is going on. They just want to finish those number of hours. So actually, I don't think children are missing out. Children who homeschool or unschool really miss out on anything. In fact, their quest to know more increases, and their ability to do it by themselves, believing that we have the resources to do it ourselves and to find information and knowledge ourselves is very strong among them. Okay, we've got a huge loads of questions that are coming up. So I think we'll just shift to the question answer session. Oh, do you think you are closer to your parents than friends who go to traditional schools?
100%. But I also felt like that while I was in school, like the entire time I was in school, like in class 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I felt like I was closer to my parents than my friends were, because a lot of times in school and a lot of times with your friends, we have this habit of kind of splitting ourselves, where you are a different person with your friends and you're a different person with your family. And that was never the case with the three of us. We were all very firmly who we were, and we didn't that never shifted for anybody or anything. So we and that was also a very like kind of like credit to also like our parents, because they made us feel like safe and comfortable and happy, and just generally like we could talk to them about anything and nothing was ever going to be off topic um, and also I feel like, yeah, a lot of kids aren't close with their parents because as you go on in school they have that's what I found with my friends, is that their parents put so much pressure on them to perform in a certain way, that and that and to focus on only very specific things, that there's no time to have any conversation about anything else. Like, it's just always about when is your next exam, what marks are you getting, no, you haven't done well enough, you should be doing more, you know, there's always so much judgment and pressure that it's hard to have open conversations.
Right.
Yeah, so I also think that we are closer to our parents than most children that still go to school. Um, it's I think it's even more emphasized because we spend so much time with them. Like you're at home all day, and so you have to stay with your parents. And because like we chose to do this as a family, we have to keep like coming back and having discussions and seeing where we all are, and we have to communicate with our parents because like um, they're the primary adults in our life, because we no longer have all those teachers and all. So they're the um, adults, they're the grown-ups, and so we have to keep in touch with them. And yes, so because huh, I think I've already said, because we did it as a family, um,
Yeah.
we have to communicate and stay connected to each other.
Right.
Um, I feel like I also saw the transition that came when I was in school and when I left school. My relationship with my parents actually grew. I think because when I was going to school, I'll be at school. My mom was running a cafe, so she'll be at the cafe. My dad had his work and the college and stuff, so he would be there. So when I came back from school, it'd be like they won't be around so much. But when I wasn't going to school, my mom would also take me to her cafe, and I think like there my mom was also teaching or helping me with my studies when I was going to school. So then there is that distance also that she has to teach, and I'm the one who's learning, and then you don't have so much space to actually see each other as human beings and people, like individuals. So as I left school and I was growing, I also saw them as people, not just my parents. And I guess they also saw me as not just their child, but also having my own personality, them having their own personality, having individual thoughts. So I guess because of that, it uh, shifted more into a like closer to being friends, not just parents, and that parent and child relationship, but also I felt open also to share what I was actually thinking, like things that would be creepy and weird, like dreams I would have, and I just like keep them on the table. So it was like an open space to actually be who you are and not pretend, because you don't have much expectations that are coming from them. And I guess if there was something that needed to be decided or some decision making, they'll like include us as much as they could. Uh, like also see how we're feeling about it. So then it felt like we're also part of like we're equals, not us not knowing stuff. Like it was nice, and if we didn't get stuff, they'll also slowly try to explain what it is. So I guess just seeing each other as human beings was
Yes.
something that really helped. Yeah. Do you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, and
That,
also like a lot of my friends who are, most of my friends who are unschoolers, they also have deeper, like better relationships with their parents um, than than I remember my classmates having. You know, and a lot of times that means they're fighting with their parents because as you kind of grow up and figure out who you are, you know,
yes.
there's conflict, and so but also I feel like it's wonderful that the fights are happening, that their home life is like a safe enough environment to be able to have those fights and those conversations. And yeah, I've noticed with a lot of my unschooling friends, they're much closer to their parents than my classmates used to be.
Right. Yeah. So when you take away the equation of being an authoritative figure in your child's life or somebody who controls everything that the child does, the relationship automatically becomes more of, joy and love and understanding each other. Like Kashvi said, you start looking at each other as human beings, as individuals, and not as, oh, she's just a child and I have to mold her or teach her or tell her what is right and wrong. I think, yes, that has been one of the biggest learnings for me too as a mom, because being a teacher as well as, uh, and then opting for unschooling, it was really hard for me because I would very, in a very, it would be a reflex action, to tell my children, ki ye mat karo, ya do this, do it this way. And then they would be like, Mama, can we just do it the way we want to? Can we just do what we want to? And slowly, steadily, that was my unschooling, deschooling phase too. And I started trusting them more, started believing in them more, and basically realized that it is their life. It's not, I cannot get them to live my life the way I want them to, but it is their life. They have to bloom in their own ways, in the way they want to. So that was a major transition for me. Oh, we are almost close to an hour, and there are a few more questions. I'm going to take one, which is, what's the hardest thing you've learned? Have you ever forced yourself to stick with something boring for the sake of mastering a subject?
Um, well, yes, I can. When I started learning music, started learning the piano. In the beginning, it was quite boring trying figuring out the sheet music because I was doing it completely on my own. Um, so it was quite boring to like stick with sheet music and have to memorize which note and goes in which on what line and what space, and you have to like with the piano you just have to keep practicing it. Like it's not something new that keeps coming. It's just practice and you have to stick with it. So I did also abandon it for a while, but then I came back to it. I didn't have to exactly force myself to do it. I mean, I took a break in the middle when for like a year, no, 2 years, I'd say. I didn't do it at all, but yes, then I brought myself back to it. There was a little bit of, I'm doing this on my own, so I owe it to myself to master it. Um, and Other than that, I was also interested in economics, so I did a course in that, which I found extremely boring, but I stuck with it. Other than that, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything boring that I've stuck with, I guess, because anything that I've chosen to learn, I've been passionate about from the beginning. So I've always kind of, if there's been any part of it that's been boring, I've kind of just gone with it and like stuck with it until it's gotten interesting again. And the hardest thing that I've learned, not as like a subject or something that I've picked, but the hardest thing that I've learned is to not force myself to do things. And if I feel like I'm forcing myself to do something, to take like a few steps back and re-examine why I'm making the choice that I'm making. Which is what happened when when Aliza and Nassim decided to start studying again last year. I was also originally going to join Aliza and we were going to give our 10th boards together. But then I was so miserable, like choosing my subjects, thinking about like what the time frame of the studies is going to be and how like what month, what year I want to give the exams. I was so miserable to the point where I like cried multiple times, and then I had to sit with Mama and kind of rehab like have the conversation that we had about unschooling when we were leaving school again. We to kind of be like, नहीं हम लोग ये कर रहे हैं because we don't want to be miserable. We don't want to force ourselves into a system that doesn't work for us. And so if I kind of force myself into that position again because of societal kind of expectations or just expectations I'm putting on myself, then there's really no point. So that's a hard thing that I've learned is to listen to myself sometimes, most all the time.
I don't know. I don't know about like hardest things. I would think that would be still believing in myself, or just like spaces, things that come up in my mind, knowing that that's not true. I'm still working on it. Not saying that I've succeeded, but things like that. And I think with I also play the ukulele somewhat, and I guess I started, and when like I was into it, so that's why I couldn't learn till a point. But when I didn't feel like doing it, I didn't feel like it was too important to stick with it. No one told me to actually stick with it, that if you start something you have to end it or master it or something. If I just stopped having fun, I just wouldn't do it. It was okay to not do it. So in that sense, I don't think I've learned something like that and forced myself when it was boring to still learning it. As soon as the question came up, the thing that came up was cycling. I didn't know how to cycle. I just learned last month, but I'm very proud of myself. But I don't think it was boring. I think it was very scary, but I kept learning. So that's something. But more of it is just mentally, just thoughts coming up and trying to understand myself and keep trusting myself that things would be okay, and stuff like that. Yeah. You want to say something?
I also think that if you really want to master something, that you would that it would be like, okay, I can stick with something boring, then it wouldn't really be boring because you want to learn it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what Naseem is saying. I think it's important to be bored. Like, it's important to try things and then decide, oh, actually, like, rather than not try anything at all, like, try something. If you're bored, move on to the next thing. To kind of try everything that you want to discover what really works for you. So it's good to be bored sometimes. It helps you look in a different direction. You're muted,
Yeah.
or I can't hear.
No, my cat is mewing right next to me, and she's outside and at the window. So I keep muting myself. So yeah, I was just saying that getting bored is so important. In fact, and also not wanting your child to master everything that they try out. So coming from a mother's perspective, so when Sidhu, my second son, was into skating, he was kind of selected to do professional skating and so on. And one fine day, he just came and told us, I don't want to do it anymore. And in my eyes, I had already started seeing him as the skater, the world's best skater and so on. And then when I realized that if he doesn't want to do this, he doesn't want to do he wants to move on to something else, and I'm holding him back. So I guess that is something important for us parents to understand and realize, that children in their they want to explore. Let's give them the freedom to explore to whatever extent they want to, and not make, build castles in the air for every uh, skill that they are gathering. It doesn't have to become their profession, or they don't have to be the all of it. It doesn't have to be the all of it in their lives. So we have already crossed our 1 hour, but there are a couple of questions. If you guys are okay, let's just take them quickly. And so, are you okay? Should we just take these two questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we'll wind up. So, okay. So, none of you followed any formal curriculum like NIOS or IGCSE. You're completely self led. Are your parents very involved in your learning? How does this work later for college admissions?
So I am doing the IGCSE course. I've done two. I've given the exam for two of my subjects, and I'm going to give the rest of them in October. Um, and Are my parents involved in my learning? Yes, somewhat. I mean, I study on my own. They help me when I need help. I ask them for help if I need. And Other than that, I don't think my parents are very, very involved in my studies exactly. Um, how does this work later for college admissions? If without a formal education, I think that without a formal like certification for either NIS or IGCSE, I think there are quite a lot of homeschoolers and unschoolers who have gone to college without 10th or 12th uh, passes. They've they I think what matters is like documenting what you're doing with your time, documenting whether you're making art or whether you're making music or whether you're studying or writing essays or whatever you're doing, to document that. And um, I think that applies for a lot of college admissions. They want to know what you've been doing in your time and what you're interested in more than they care about your grades. And if you have enough to show for what you've done, I don't think the grades are 100% required.
Mm, I I think. Wait, I gotta read the question again. I forgot what I was thinking.
So it's yeah, I'll share it with you again. So, uh,
It's there. I can see it.
okay.
I think like if I do need a degree later on, which if I do, I can still give the exams at whatever age, and I think I could also get into colleges if I want to in the future with my portfolio and exactly what Ali said. Um, and are my parents included? I mean, I'm not studying, so I don't think there's anything to be included in. But other things, like if I wanted to learn drumming, which I haven't actually gotten to, but I did share it with them, and then they'd like help me find a person or how to do it, and maybe they'll learn it with me if they are also interested, or they'll find a class or some ways, or get me a drumming set or something to make me help me learn it. So things like that, yes, they are included. And if I also do stuff, if I make stuff, I like go and show them. So I'm working on this. I've made this today. This is what I'm doing. So in that case, if that's what you're saying, then yes, they are very much included.
Yeah. Seher, would you like to say, or Naseem? Seher,
Yeah,
would you like to say?
yeah, I mean, like with Ali and Naseem studying, our parents aren't involved in like so much in the fact that they're like sitting with Aliza and Naseem or getting like status updates or something like that. Where they're like, like what did you like? You don't, they don't necessarily have to like tell them everything uh, or if our parents aren't like no we have to know everything that's going on. it's very much voluntary. Like a lot of our dinner table conversations are me and my senior explaining some concept that they learned about the day, like just wanting to share what they've learned. A lot of it, like it just comes authentically. It's like, oh, this is what I spent my day doing, and I want to tell you guys about it. And so that everybody is very involved in each other's kind of studies that way.
Mhm.
Yeah. If we need help, we come to them, and they can explain some things that I'm having trouble with. If I have something that I'm stuck on or something. But apart from that, it's just like, yeah, you just learn whenever you want to,
Right.
what you want to.
Yeah.
Like, they'll know about it and stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. In fact, I always say, what's the hurry? Why do we want to give board exams? Plus, when there is a need to give the board exams, if you want to do a particular course and that course requires, you to give a 10th or a 12th because that's part of their eligibility criteria and you're very keen on doing that course, then the need is yours. And then probably, so you go for those exams, or sometimes you're just interested in learning and giving a board exam. And like, when Aditya decided to give board exams, he just said, I just feel like doing it, I want to do it. And so there was nothing else attached to it, that I want to become this or I want to go for that course. So he just felt that at that point he wanted to study and give the exams, and so he did so. So sometimes, it's all about whether we parents are okay to accepting the reasoning that our children have, whether they're doing it, with why they don't want to do it, why they want to give these exams, whether we are all okay, and whether we do believe that they can still make a life without college or without any formal education. It is their life, so they do have the ability to do things that they want to and to excel in whatever they want to, rather than we telling them that no, you have to do this course, only then will you make it big in this area. So let them decide all these things for themselves rather than we deciding for them. Okay, so now for the last question, and then we're going to end um, our session. So this is about, why are there so many misconceptions about homeschooling? Ah, I can see all of you smile. So lots of thoughts in your head.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is like a sociological question. Why are there misconceptions? Like,
Right.
okay, society wonders so much about things that are different from the mainstream, and um, they think the worst of them. Like, there's like a lot of theories that you can come up with. Like, why are there misconceptions? Um, yeah, so there's well, so one reason has to be because it's done by not that many people, and sometimes when people try to explain homeschooling or unschooling, they might simplify it, and in that there can be some confusion and some misconception. So like the thing about like not having friends, I think that is quite true for some people, that they don't manage to connect with people their age because they're not spending a lot of time with them. But there are other ways to meet people, and maybe people don't see that immediately because all they've known is that children make friends through school, and so because all they've known is this one thing, they might assume um, something, and that might be wrong about homeschooling. So yeah, that is what I think.
Anyone wants to add anything to?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like such a no. It's like everybody's so used to going to school, and it's such a established system of like, no, this is just how things are. What do you mean that there's like that if you don't want to, you don't have to? And there's, I think, a lot of times, like explaining something. Like, when I say that I was miserable in school and I didn't want to go anymore, there's a lot of kind of talking about like no, you have to suffer to kind of learn what it's like in the real world, and a lot of it is like that's not true. Like I don't want, like I don't want to spend like I don't want to be miserable at any point in my life to be able to get anywhere, and there's a lot of kind of yeah. So if you just know one thing for so much of your life, it's hard to accept that um, that's not the only option anymore. And yeah, I
Right.
think a lot of misconceptions are like mostly just solidly based in fear, because so much of it is unknown, so much of it is experimental, so much of it is like it's always, and school is a structure that doesn't change for person for anyone, and homeschooling is very much something that you kind of experiment with and figure out for yourself. Something that works for me will not work for someone else, so it's very much a person to person basis, unlike school, which is just a rigid system that has qualifications and lines and numbers that everybody has to fit into, and homeschooling is not that. So I guess that.
I think that because when like in trains and other places when you like tell people that you don't go to school and that you're homeschooling or unschooling, for them it's like they're a shock. Like this is something very very new, and like they're very at times where they're very curious but also like scared for the other child. Like oh my god, what is this child going to do in life because they're not going to school. So I guess just explaining it, we simplify it in a way, but in that it's like if you're not in it, you can't really understand what it is because it's different for other people. And I guess because they're in such shock at that point, when you actually tell them, they're just it's like no, you need to go to school because they're so attached with the idea. Everyone is because it's so different. It's hard to accept something very different, and because you're not actually in it, if you like go and live with people who are unschooling or homeschooling, it makes more sense. But in like just talking, it's harder to explain what you actually do and what you're doing, and you're okay with what you're doing, and it's gonna be fine. It's like they're worried about us, and we have to like, we'll be fine. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. Which I think, yeah, it's harder to talk about it and actually know what it is. That's why there is people get different ideas from different places also.
Yeah, and also discomfort and success are such like the discomfort is so normalized. Is it that no, like you're supposed to be uncomfortable, you're supposed to like not enjoy, like there's such a thing, like school has such a thing of making you feel like there's something wrong with you, and the world in general has such like an idea of making you feel like there are aspects of you that need to change, and the idea of being successful and what that means is such a big deal, and so to kind of say that no, I'm actually really happy with who I am as a person, and I'd like to be comfortable in my skin and not um, need other people's, not need like a piece of paper or I don't know somebody else's opinion of me to validate me, can be shocking for people also. Yeah, so that could also be, I guess, another
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think about misconceptions about homeschooling, I feel, are there actually any misconceptions about schooling, about homeschooling? Because schooling is considered to be a given. It's a to-do thing. Your child turns 3 nowadays. Parents want to put their children in school when they are 2 years old. I think what we homeschoolers are bringing out is a very important message to schools. Is that the the problem is not with a system of schooling. It is more about what is being done inside that system. It is the way things are being handled. What if there was more freedom given to children? What if children could choose what they wanted to learn, till to what extent they wanted to learn? What if schools were okay with children playing all day long, and uh, instead of putting them in classrooms of age specific groups, what if there were mixed age group children in just together finding their way out? What if there was trust that children would find their way out to, do things together? I think what homeschooling is asking schools to do is to reimagine the way learning is happening or education is happening today. In fact, I constantly tell people or voice it out very clearly that I do not want schooling as a system to break. It would create a lot of chaos in our current social system, because with both parents working, nuclear families, children need a safe space to be at. But right now, is school actually a safe space for all children? Maybe a safe space for those children who learn to, comply and do things as asked. But what about the other kids who want to live a life of their own choice, live it the way they want to? Is it a safe space for them? And then the right question should be, how do we make it a space where children thrive and not feel that comparison or competitiveness and that discomfort for not having in the space and time to do things that they want to? I guess those are the questions that we all educationists need to ask these days. And the sharing that these four beautiful teenagers have given to us, these are real pearls. They are pearls of wisdom coming straight from the mouth of children who are going through a lot. And I'm so happy to have had them on my Saturday live, and I'd like to thank each one of them. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful sharing. And with that, I'd like to end the live. I will share all the links in the comment section, and so that our viewers can get access to all the links. I'll also share links to the work that Seher does with her book reviews, as well as certain articles that their mom Natasha has written. Um, and a whole lot of other links that I have with me. So thank you so much. Thank you, Seher, Ali, Naseem, and Kashmi for being on my show. Thank you, and thank you, audience, for being there and listening to all of us talk.